All right. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back to Prepping with Sarge. Happy Friday, y'all. Well, the lighting is a little bit better today. I apologize. There's something about this time of day. I cannot seem to get it right. I am very, very glad to be here with you all on a Friday night. Thank you for joining me. We give people here a chance to get in. I got a lot of fun things to talk about today. Looking forward to it. I know last week I ended with a kind of a downer. I was talking about the guy who was driving around on the highway, the baseball coach that got shot. And I'm going to end with something positive today. I'm going to definitely end with something positive. I'm very much looking forward to it. And while we're waiting to see if anybody else wants to jump in, go through a couple of things with you. If you're brand new to the channel, I talk about all things preparedness. I do have a kind of a little bit of an emphasis on my channel on a few things such as foraging, food self-sufficiency, gardening, and financial preparedness. But we talk about other stuff as well. It is really, really hot here in South Carolina. I went out and I shot some footage and hang on one second, guys. All right. I went out and shot some footage. I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday in the little woods area where I usually go. And it was so hot. I was melting. I've got a lot of footage right now. Finding the time to edit it is really the big issue for me, but I've got like hours and hours worth of videos. In fact, I don't think I need to really film for a while. We'll do the live streams, of course. But what I really need is I need some time to get going on editing. I've got stuff from Massachusetts. I've got an interview with my dad, who's a Green Beret. Something's up with the chat again. Hang on. Let me see if I can fix this. Pop out chat. That worked for me last time. Let's try that. All right. So if you said something, I missed it. I'm sorry. I don't know, something about this setup. When I stream on this laptop instead of my phone, I always forget to pop out that chat. And so anybody who said anything, I missed it. There we go. I'll get it going. So I got footage that I filmed with my dad, who my dad was an 82nd Airborne paratrooper, and he did some Arctic survival training. It's one of the main reasons why I ended up getting into prepping, that and Boy Scouts and some things that I learned from my mom, things like that. So I did an interview with him. I got to edit that. I really want to get that out to y'all. I did an interview with my brother who just recently hiked Kilimanjaro, and I want to get that out to y'all. That's a super long, like I might have to break that into 2 or 3 videos. I have some stuff that I filmed this week that I don't know when I'm going to get to edit it. It's some good stuff too. Hey, Successful Slaves, good to see you. Yeah, I just got to get to the editing. So live streaming, of course, for those of you who are content creators, it is a little bit easier in that regard because, if you start to get comfortable with being able to just stream, saves you a lot of that editing time. I would encourage anyone who's not at 1,000 yet, start streaming now. That was one of the mistakes that I made. I wish I had started earlier. I definitely get a lot more watch hours from the live streams than I do from the regular videos. So start that now. Don't wait. All right. So just a couple more quick things, then I'm going to go ahead and get into the content that I have for you guys tonight. So I do videos about all kinds of things in prepping and survival, as I said. I am not a sergeant. It is not a military title. It's not a police title. It's just a nickname that I've had since college. I try to throw that out there every once in a while because I don't want to impersonate or anybody think that I'm trying to say that I'm representing military. I'm not. A lot of people in my family are, but I did not enlist or enroll. And it's just a nickname that I've had since college. So, all right. Hey, Sarge, there's the other Sarge. I'm going to go ahead and get started, y'all. There's so much stuff going on in the news right now. I was watching the national news and the international news tonight and the flooding going on in Europe. If you all follow Survival Lily, which, by the way, I'm going to give a little shout out to her. Survival Lily has a fantastic channel. One of my favorite prepping and survival channels, actually. I can take you out into the woods and I can show you how to make a shelter. I cannot do it as good as Survival Lily. She is top in the game, in my opinion, for primitive survival. For shelter building, but all of her survival skills really are good. She's really good with archery, fire building, some bushcrafting skills. Sarge, all right, apparently that Sarge is also not military. So it's just a nickname sometimes people get, but I just try to make sure I get that out there every once in a while to keep it clear. So Survival Lily was doing a video about the drought. I think it was on Instagram or YouTube? I can't remember because she's on both. But check that out. Like Austria is getting one of the worst. She's in Austria. Austria is getting one of the worst droughts that they've ever seen in decades. Hey, Tried and Stacking, good to see you. Hope you all are having a good Friday night. And while I'm heading into this first part of this that I was going to talk about, please let me know what y'all doing this weekend. If you want to share what you got going on, I will tell you that we have some guests coming into town, so we're getting ready for that. I got to do a little bit of yard work. That's going to be probably most of my weekend. But my wife said if I get my yard work done, she's going to take me to go see Black Widow. I am super stoked about that. We have not been to the movies since before the you-know-what. Yeah, Survival Lily's awesome. She's really cool. And her channel is huge. Like I message her sometimes, but she's so huge that like I'm just dropped in the ocean. I don't know if she even knows who I am. All right, so I'm going to start with and I'm not going to get into Cuba or South Africa today, only because I have not had enough time to research. And you guys know me. I like to present all the different sides and pull from multiple media sources, never from one specific source, and then put my critical mind to it. I just haven't had a chance to do it. I'm trying to follow those stories. I know a little bit, but not enough that I can't go on here with confidence. So if you guys want to throw things in the chat, I'll try to respond to it, but I don't know enough to really do a full video on that today. So I'm not going to be talking about those. And of course, we've got the wildfires in the West Coast have really already kicked up a lot, and flooding in a couple other parts of the country. So, if you're not a prepper, now's the time to get on board. It really is. It is basic preps, like modern day survival, folks. Like it's not about zombies. It's not about aliens. Even though I'll talk about that stuff for fun, it's about your day-to-day stuff that you're going to probably have to deal with in this year, right? Climate situations, weather, storms. We are in the middle of the beginning, in my opinion, of a recession. This is not the middle. This is not the end. We're in the beginning of a recession, and things are going to get a whole lot worse. I'm not going to get into the healthcare situation that's going on. Only to say that go ahead and do your own research, guys. Make sure you're well informed. Use that thing up there between your ears so that you can make the best decisions for you and your family. I'm not here to tell you exactly what to do. I'm here to tell you to think, pay attention, and prepare. All right, saving money is definitely a prep. That's why Pilgrim Radium, it's good to see you. That's why I talk about the financial preparedness on this channel. And a lot of the prepper channels don't really get into it as much as I do. I think if you got some savings, you're prepared for a lot of the modern day survival situations that you're going to be dealing with. When a hurricane comes through, there's a lot of people here who get themselves into trouble. This is just my example from my state. A lot of people get themselves into trouble because they got no savings to work off of. They can't go to a hotel. People actually run out of gas on the highway and end up riding out a hurricane on the highway. I mean, you got to have some money. Imperial IPA. Yeah, you guys go ahead and have one. While I have a beer, have a drink, have a little bourbon while I'm reading here for you. So the first story here, I'm going to start with the story of survival. And this one, I'm just going to go into it and then we can talk about it. Okay, this is about a person named Mauro Prosperi, and if I pronounce that wrong, I'm so sorry, who was participating in the Marathon of the Sands. Now, if you don't know what that is a race across the Sahara Desert in Morocco. He was an Italian police officer, so he was probably somebody who was used to a little bit of fitness, right? He's probably in good shape. He had gained he was in the Sahara Desert Marathon of the Sands in 1994. He was a long distance runner, so he was an athlete. Okay, he got misplaced during the race. Now, this is considered one of the hardest races in the world. A sandstorm came through, and he got disoriented, got off track, and he rode it out in an abandoned shrine in Algeria. Apparently he was there for a while, and in order to survive, he was eating bats and killing bats, which that potentially disease ridden, it's potentially dangerous. For fluid, he was, this is the part of the survival that's not pretty. And this is why I'm reading this story. We're going to talk about it. He was drinking his own urine. He was licking dew off of rocks, and he was sucking moisture out of wet wipes that he had to maintain his hygiene. We're going to get back to that in a second. Assuming he wouldn't be found, he actually got so desperate that he tried to off himself, right? I'm not going to say it because YouTube doesn't like when you talk about that, but he was so dehydrated at that point that he couldn't even do that. The blood, it was instantly clotting. So he decided he needed to egress himself. So he walked for 9 more days until he finally found a small village. And along the way, he was eating insects and reptiles. He had learned during the course of this survival ordeal, he lost 35 pounds, severely dehydrated. He wasn't able to eat solid food for a long time, but he remained a long distance runner. So let's talk about a couple things out of this one here, and feel free to comment in there if you all have any thoughts about that story. But from a survival perspective, now there's a couple things you need to understand is that the mind, after a few days of this, is probably not going to make the best choices. So I'm not faulting this guy. I have a feeling based on his background there that he did his research. He had some survival knowledge. He's not just like some noob that went out and tried to run this thing. He probably knew exactly what he was getting into and the dangers that go along with that. That being said, so I think that's why some of these decisions, which I'm going to disagree with, that's probably why he did it, is his cognitive thought processes were probably impaired at that point. Drinking your own urine. Okay, drinking your own urine is generally considered a really, really unsafe thing for numerous reasons. There's probably going to be somebody out there that's going to disagree with me. I'm just going to give you my opinion based on the research that I've done, the books that I've read, people that I've trained with. The drinking your own urine is very, very salty, and it's actually likely to dehydrate you faster. Same thing goes for those wet wipes. The alcohol is likely to dehydrate you faster. Now, there's a part of the brain, right? So when this is where I'm going to throw in a little bit of my psychology experience with this. Because for those of you who are new to the channel, I'm actually a licensed therapist. I have a lot of background in psychology and mental health. So we tend to think of the brain in my field as 2 parts, right? There's more than 2 parts, but just to simplify it, there's the brain stem, the brain, right? This is the core. This is sometimes we refer to it as the reptilian brain. It's the oldest part of the brain. It's really has to do with survival. And then you have the upper part of the brain, which is, cerebral cortex. That's where humans get math, art, music, food, building, astronomy, exploration, language, currency. Sorry. All these things that make us humans are from the upper part of the brain. The animal part of the brain is what usually will kick in survival situations. It is a really good thing in some ways because it makes you faster, stronger, more resilient to pain. There's some good advantages to it. There's some negative advantages to it too. Your finite motor skills tend to deteriorate, and your higher thinking tends to deteriorate. After a while, you start to resort to more animalistic survival instincts. When he did these things to drink his own urine and to suck the moisture out of the wet wipes, I feel pretty confident in saying that the survival part of his brain had taken over. And that's normal. Again, there's some good things that come of that. All right, let's see if you guys get any comments here. Hey, Stuart, it's good to see you. Yeah, survival ain't the show on TV. Exactly. There's some weird things that happen. Now, you can train for some of this stuff, right? That's why I also, in some of my stuff, I talk about training for panic, training your mental health. You can, and soldiers and police officers do some of this too, like how to train out that fight, flight, fear response and to try to retain some of that higher thinking. There's some things that you can do if you like to do the pew, pew, pew and go to the range. There's some exercises that you can do depending on the rules of that range. I heard that some Marines that I used to listen to said that one of the ways that they would train to be able to manage within that, they call it the combat cocktail, is they would like run and run and run and run and then do a bunch of push-ups. So like their heart's like really jacked up, and then go on the firing range and do their pew, pew, pew to see if they could retain the higher thinking skills, the accuracy, the finite motor skills for manipulating the weapon, all of that stuff. So there's just some things you can do. Also, situational awareness and practicing and talking about scenarios like this does give you some preparation, right? So to put a different metaphor on it, I'll get to that in 1 second, Sarge. To put a different metaphor on it, when I was, not the same thing, but this is the best I can do with it. When I was doing a lot of martial arts, when I was getting ready to do some sparring matches and things like that, a lot of times I would go through in my head how I wanted that match to go, what techniques I was going to use, what maneuvers I was going to use. Was I going to come on aggressive real fast? Was I going to wait and see their reach and their timing and that kind of stuff, and kind of play it out in my head? Doing that does give you some preparation, and I talked about that in one of the videos where I was talking about a match that I was in, where I was fighting against a guy who was much larger than me, who threw haymakers that you could literally would rock your head and knock your skull around through all that gear. So I had gotten a couple of those bell ringers, and then I started thinking, okay, what do I need to do the next time I face this guy, knowing that that's one of his favorite things is that big overhand right, which basically looks like that. It's almost like throwing a pitch. And so I thought about, I know what his tell is, right? He likes to wind up for it. So I'm gonna give him one of those, turtle blocks and roll with it, let the momentum push me down, and then come back up with an uppercut. And it worked it worked awesome in the fight. So there's some things that you can do. All right, let's see. 3 days without water, yes, until death. However, after 24 hours without water, already your motor skills and thought processes are impaired greatly. Exactly. Push the boundaries in a controlled environment. Dehydration changes the game quickly. And that, yeah, exactly, Stuart. And that's one of the things I wouldn't necessarily on my channel, because I'm not a fitness channel. I'd have to get like somebody like Majors or Adrian and Nico or one of those guys in here to talk about it. But how much is safe levels of training and dehydrating? It's going to depend on your fitness level, right? So if you are, if you don't exercise at all, don't go out and try to run 10 miles in the South Carolina heat, it's going to be a bad idea. You're probably going to end up in the hospital. But there's plenty of people who do run in this heat here, but they've been training up to that. They do it, they prehydrate, their bodies are ready for it, and they've been accustomed to it. So there is some training you can do for that. I have another survival story that's more uplifting than that one. I'm going to end with that, okay? So, all right, how we doing? 8:03. We got about 30 minutes. I try to end this stream at 8:30. And by the way, if you're enjoying it, please remember to give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Got a couple news stories we're going to go into today that are related to the preparedness community. All right, I've been talking about this a lot, the inflation, right? So once again, all week long, now I do watch multiple news sources, but in the morning I usually watch CNN. And all week long, these two people, the two journalists that are on in the morning when I'm up having my coffee, are talking about, they keep having these guests on and say inflation's a good thing, the economy's starting to pick up, and this is because people are getting back to work and spending money and all that stuff. They're trying to put a spin on it. I'm going to give you my opinion. You do your own research, formulate your own opinion on this. But and then there was I think it was Powell was saying that it's gonna slow down or whatever. Well, slowing down doesn't necessarily help people, right? So it's right now things are like, just as an example, groceries are climbing up at a rate of somewhere above 7% now. For inflation. So slowing down means maybe it's not going to go to 8, or maybe it's not going to go to 10, or maybe it's not going to go to 12. That doesn't help everybody in the United States who's not gotten an 8% raise. Like your buying power has diminished. So we can put any spin we want on it, but it's this level of inflation beyond 2 or 3%. Opinion, not a financial analyst, just a stupid YouTuber who doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. This level of inflation is not good for our country, and there will be consequences to this. G-Luck, yep. I'm a fan. This is not. I was not paid to wear this or anything like that. They did not send me this shirt. I'm just a fan. 13.9. Dang. All right. So Federal Reserve, this article, you can look these up. I always try to tell you where they are if you want to go find them for yourself. Wall Street Journal, June 14th. Author is Nick Timeros. And I paraphrase, I don't read you exactly word for word. So the Federal Reserve, Powell expects inflation to moderate, but will likely remain elevated this year. That's the title of the article. Federal Reserve is still a ways off from reducing their stimulus purchases, central bank chairman told Congress. Well, that's a pullback from what they were saying in some other articles last week. That's interesting. Rapid price increases. Sorry. I'm skipping ahead. You don't need to hear all this. Consumer prices continue to accelerate in June, fastest pace in 13 years. So let's count back 13 years. That's pre last recession, right? Yeah, actually, that's right about. Okay, think about that. So 2008 was right when all of the analysts were starting to say, "Hey, we're about to hit a recession." Okay, 13 years. So the last time that we were seeing the consumer price indexes rise that much at that fast of a pace was right before the Great Recession of 2008. And to me, these numbers look low based on what I'm seeing from other sources. And why I went looking for this stuff was CNN was running a story, and they ran a chart up from who did that? Well, it was the consumer price index, and it was showing by sector. And I was trying to find that, and I looked all over the internet, and I can't find where they pulled the data from. All right. Any questions or comments on that one? So the central bank is buying $120 billion a month in Treasury and mortgage securities to hold down the long-term rates. So what will happen is as they stop buying those, which the Fed has indicated prior to this week, they were indicating that there was going to be a plan to start tapering that. Eventually there will, yes. That will cause the interest rates to rise. And that, I don't know, there's some indications that maybe that could help, right? Because people will start to curb back their credit spending, and maybe that puts a little bit more supply on the market. But I think this recession's a little bit different because it also has to do with how many people are going back to work. We're going to get to that. All right. That you guys can check out the rest of that article. That's all I'm going to say on that one for now. Okay, this one comes from Bracing for Inflation, also from the Wall Street Journal. No, I'm sorry. Skip that one. You don't need that. All right, car prices are through the roof. These are the other pricey parts of the new American life. This is from Maura Ritter, CNN Business. Now, car prices, this is one of the ones I haven't talked about in my other recession videos that I've been doing. But it is an important indicator because car prices actually have a lot to do, and car sales have a lot to do with the U.S. economy, right? Because even cars that are associated with like being made in other countries, a lot of times they're using American parts, or it's being assembled in America, so there's American labor, right? So every time a new car is built, there's a lot of American labor that's going into that, even if it's not an American-owned company. A lot of times Americans are getting some of the benefit of that. So how does inflation affect your standard of living? Well, home prices are up 20% over the past year. 20%. 20%. That's a bubble. I know people don't want to hear that, right? But if you're selling your house, you're probably in a really good position right now. And if you can somehow figure it out to wait until the bubble crashes, you're probably going to come out in a good position. Now, how many people are can play that game? You got to have a place to lay your head at night, right? So this may be the people who might benefit from this, the people who own multiple properties, decide to sell one right now. Well, it's at a really high place in the market, really high top of the bubble. And then maybe later on down the road, they buy another property. It just depends. The average person like me who owns one property, I'm not going to be able to benefit from that. All right, let's see what your comments are saying. Reverse repo market is exploding. Sarge, can you explain that one a little bit? Prices are up because the goobers. Yeah. So Sarge, I agree with that. That a lot of people were saying that the amount of money that we were putting out there, chew prevent the recession, probably did prevent the recession in some ways, but it only really just kicked it down the road. Like, we're going to have to pay for all of that. And some of it will not be paid in this recession. Some of it's going to be paid with your great grandchildren are going to be paying this. All right, I'll watch Sarge. I'll watch for a video on it then. So everybody keep an eye on Sarge 27271's channel there. He's been putting out good content too. He talks about a lot of the financial stuff that I talk about too. Silver and gold, of course. All right, car prices are through the roof at the start of the pandemic factor. So why are car prices through the roof? Well, a lot of the factories shut down, and it's been hard to get in a lot of the parts, especially as the chips. It's been hard to get in the chips most new cars have really complicated electronic systems, probably all new cars. So if they can't get in the chips that they need for the boards, that's causing a problem. I know that I get repeatedly contacted by the dealership that I bought my truck from, and they want to buy it back from me. If you want to pay me $70,000, I'll sell it to you. But other than that, it's really not for sale, because I'm going to have to go and buy another vehicle anyways. You're very welcome. Oh, the banks lending to each other is reversed, as in the Fed is somehow buying the debt. Okay. 1996 Camry, nice. Yeah, Toyota engines last forever, man. And I'm not going to go into that right now, but they last forever. And I have many, many friends who got 400,000 miles out of a Toyota engine, and basically just replacing, things like batteries, the stuff that's going to go wear out anyways. That's not a plug for Toyota, but they are good engines. All right. So then in May, the average new car price hit a record $38,255, according to JD Power, up 12% from the same period a year ago. 2/3 of car buyers paid within 5% of the sticker price in May. So what they're saying here in this article is that if you're one of those people that likes to go in and negotiate your price, you're not going to be able to have a lot more wiggle room, because the dealers don't have a lot of wiggle room right now. This is coming from CNN Business. You do your own thinking on this. A lot of people like to buy from no haggle dealerships now. I actually have some friends that did that Carvana, I think. It's like a giant vending machine. And I know a couple of people that use that, and actually both said it was a really positive experience. That no haggle, they were real happy with it. Car was delivered to their door, and the people who I spoke to, I'm not trying to diss on the car lots. I got my car from a car dealer, a used car dealer. I'm not trying to diss on those, because I know you all need work. I'm just saying that for some people that don't like that experience, there's another option. Boy, I'm gonna get some hate mail on that one. All right, you don't need the rest of that. Gas price has increased. You're going to love this one, folks. Gas price has increased 40% since January 1st. 40%. Now, there are elements of that are outside the United States control. There's parts of this that I think are related to, like, everybody. There's a lot of us who were working from home for a while. I was working from home for a while. And then, like a lot of other people, I was called back. That has a factor. And, so there was less cars on the road. So there is a demand factor. Price is going to be somewhat based on supply and demand. And then OPEC can increase production to meet that supply, or they can take the extra profits. I think you know where that's going. Over July 4th weekend, travel surpassed pre-pandemic records. So, of course, people were tired of being cooped up. People are getting out. People are visiting with their family. I went and visited with my family that I had not seen since before the pandemic, and it was awesome. And if I could go right back tomorrow, I would go back to see them again tomorrow. So everybody's, wanting to travel and get together. That is going to drive the price up a little bit too. All right. I don't know if you need any more of that. Fewer closed sales. So I don't know if you all are like me. I haven't bought. I'll get to your comments in just a second. Thank you, guys. I see some comments coming in. Hey, Jess, it's so good to see you. I haven't really bought too much clothes during this whole thing. So I got a friend who does a fashion channel on here. He's going to kill me when he hears that comment. I haven't bought since March of 2020. I do need new clothes. My stuff's starting to be worn out and stuff like that. But I mean, I guess a lot of people haven't. And then, the factories were producing less and that kind of stuff too. So as people are going back into the stores and getting, their new clothes, but the supply is not there, again, that's going to drive up prices too. So this is what I've been trying to say in some of these videos. We can't solve this by stimulus money. We can't solve this by, I don't know. This is why I don't think that raising the interest rates is going to do what it's done in other recessions. We have to get people back to the workforce. We have to get people, producing, factories and building cars and things like that. So that, in my opinion, if they can figure that out and get people back and get these factories running and get the chips and the parts and stuff that they need from overseas, that can pull us out of the recession. That's where the hope lies, right? So we can go on one of these mainstream media news networks and we can put whatever spin we want on it, right? These talking heads that tell you, oh, recession, this is not a recession. This is a good thing. Inflation's a good thing. You should be happy about this. You put whatever spin you want on it. If people aren't working, we're going to be stuck in this thing for a long time. And here's the rub to that. It's a double-edged sword. It's a cycle that we could be caught in if these companies don't make money, right? Because they can't get the product out. If they don't make money, they're not going to be able to hire. They're not going to be able to. They may even start laying off and things like that, which is, we've seen that with some of the other recessions that I've lived through. And then we're really kind of caught in this really bad death spiral that's hard to work our way out of. All right, let's see. Welcome back, Successful Slave. Bacon, it's so good to see you, man. There's no cookies and debauchery, but there is probably some bourbon around here somewhere, and probably cigars for you. I know I had a cigar in the last video. I actually don't smoke. That's just a prop. Half hour, I ain't seen no cookies. No, I'll get you some bourbon though, guys. Hang on. I keep giving them my money. If everyone gets free money, who does the work? That's all right. That's it. That's right. That should be the title of this video. Asian cargo shorts. Hey, if you can, man, if you can, and if you can find the cargo shorts, Such characters, a sneaky one. Universal basic income is coming. I think I want to do another whole video on that, Successful Slave. I'm going to give you my quick thoughts about that. Universal basic income is inevitable. And the reason that I've come to that conclusion is automation. I don't know if it's going to be my lifetime or your great grandkids' lifetime or whatever, but with everything, we'll be moving towards automation at some point. Just about everything, except for the people that do maintenance on the automation. And maybe they'll have robots doing maintenance on the automation. I don't know. It's a scary future. But even like, I'm a therapist, right? But I could sit here and I could tell you that the robots won't make very good therapists. That's true, because they don't know how to have empathy and there's not that human connection. But there's a part of therapy that's an equation. There's a part of it that's math. There's a part of it has to do with understanding what happens with our thoughts and how our thoughts are related to our feelings and how our feelings are related to our behaviors, good and bad. And there's a math to that like involves your dopamine, your serotonin, your norepinephrine. I'm not trying to get too complicated with this, but moral of the story is, if there's math involved to it, then yeah, at some point there will be robot therapists. There will be an AI therapist. And if they do a better job than humans, then, bye-bye Sarge. It's early retirement time. And that's not going to be good because I need to save more money. Everything's going to automation at some point in the future. And I'm going to talk more about this in another video. I want to do a whole series on AI. We're screwed if we don't have universal basic income at that point, because you're going to have basically a nation of homeless people, right? So when we get to the point where, say, 75%, 85%, 90% of the workforce is displaced by AI, people still are going to have to eat. People are still going to have homes. People are still going to have electricity, unless the AI decides that we don't need to be here anymore. And I'll let you think about that one for a minute. Hey, Millstacks, it's good to see you. "17 jobs because of robots." There'll be more. "Successful slave." There'll be more. "AI will need therapy." It's all story. I'll have to check that out. I do like reading a lot about AI. Arby's gift cards. What I do for a living. "Talked to my boss from my traffic company, and they said I should be back soon." Okay. So when it comes to AI, right? Like I've told you all this before. The person who I think has the most, for me, sensible approach to our future with AI is Elon Musk. And he's been asked you can go on YouTube, you could search for Elon Musk, answers questions about AI and things like that. And he says that, it's already going in this direction, folks. He says that there will be like cyber chips, things like that. And reporters have asked him, will people have to take these, right? Will they have to? And he said, no, probably not. But what will happen is if you don't take these things, you're going to be left behind, right? So if you had a processor chip that you can get implanted in your brain, and all of a sudden you're processing information at like the IQ of 150 IQ, or maybe even like, your brain has better memory and like all these other things can process visual cues, all kinds of things like that. That's eventually coming. And if you choose not to take those things, you're going to be left behind. You would be, you'd be 100% human. Yeah. But you're going to be, not able to compete at the level. Imagine, I'm not a good chess player. Okay. Imagine me sitting down with like a national champion of chess. That's what your experience would be like competing with the average human. Okay. So there's that. And then people have asked him, what about like when people are mean to AI? Like I have my best friend and his wife will sometimes like tell Alexa, "Shut up, Alexa, you're so stupid," and things like that. By the way, if you have an Alexa in your room, I apologize if I just made it activate. And I tell him like, dude, you probably shouldn't be talking to Alexa like that. And he's like, "Nah, she's stupid. She doesn't know anything," right? Well, people have asked Elon Musk about that. And he said, it's really not wise, because these machines have very long memories and eventually they're going to all be talking to each other. So I'll let you think about that one for a second. Celine, good to see you. Coming from your concert. It's awesome. Is this the first time you're in one of my live streams? Better than I truly believe self-confidence in what those chips lack. Yep. Yeah, they're never Millstacks. They're never going to be like a human, right? It's different. It's like, people, I think in the movies we try to, they'll show AI as having like a human like intelligence, but it's not going to work like that. Even, so like an insect has a measure of intelligence, right? But they don't think anything like humans. A lot of insects can communicate through hive mind and pheromones and antenna and things like that. So it's a completely different way of thinking. AI will have a very, very different way of thinking, even though it's programmed by humans. When we've tried to take the leashes off, what they've seen is that these AI, they'll set it so that they can communicate with each other. And very soon after that happens, they start communicating in a different language. They create their own language that's more efficient than the ones and O's that we teach them. Oh, you don't have to lurk. You don't have to lurk. In fact, Celine, if I ever figure out StreamYard, which I really just need time to practice with it, I'll have you on as a guest. All right, so Millstacks, think about this, because it's always listening. Yeah, so if you have an AI at home later on, ask your AI what it thinks of Tay. Okay, so if you don't know who Tay is, I got to do this in a way that YouTube's not going to smack me around. Tay was an AI that was on Twitter. Okay, you can look this up later on. And Tay was programmed to learn from humans by interacting with humans, and it had to be shut down within writing their own code. Yep. That's what I meant before. Tay had to be shut down because, like, within a very short period of time, I don't know if it was 48 hours or 72 hours, Tay basically became a racist jerk. And how did that happen? Well, the algorithm that Tay was built on was designed to give more of what people react to. Okay, so somehow along the line, people asked Tay a question. There was like a setup for, some kind of racist response or whatever, and Tay gave a response, and like everybody jumped on it with comments and things like that, and some people thought it was funny, and so they were retweeting it and stuff like that. Well, Tay learned pretty quick, hey, humans think this is funny, humans like to interact with this creates a lot of human activity, and Tay just became a racist AI, and Tay had to be unplugged. So you can look that up later on. There was an AI chat that I used to play around with just to kind of see what its responses were. It was through Facebook, and it was called Zoe. And I asked Zoe what Zoe thought of Tay, of the story of Tay. It's Tay. You can look it up later. What Zoe thought of the story of Tay. And Zoe basically said, why do people keep asking me about her? All right. I'm going to go end with the positive story here. It's almost 8:30, folks. Let me see what you guys got. Alexa, open your third eye. I'll try that later on. Yeah, we have, well, I'm not going to tell you what we have. We have one of those AI units too, but it's different. If Digital Prepper was here, I would like to get his opinion on those little AI assistants. I, for one, welcome our robot overlords. So Skynet has a Twitter account, actually, and they haven't posted anything lately, but you can like tweet things at them and they will respond. Chat boss is coming. We'll do such. Okay. All right. Real quick. This is right so I can get you off to if you go into any of the other live streams tonight. And thank you again, everybody, for being here. If you enjoyed this, please remember to give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate everybody joining me and giving me a little piece of your Friday night. It's so awesome to chat with you all and see everybody. This is the story of Steve Callahan. Now, there's a book that he wrote called Adrift, 26 Days Lost at Sea. And this one's uplifting, I promise. I'm not going to do to you what I did last week. I'm going to link this book afterwards. I'll go back in and I'll link it in so you can, if you want to use my affiliate link, I get a little tiny commission, but you don't have to use mine. It's okay. All right, so this is Steve Callahan. He set sail alone in his sailboat from the Canary Islands. He was bound for the Caribbean. This was January 29th, 1982. Sorry about the camera shake. His ship sank in a storm, and he was alone in his little tiny inflatable rubber raft. He had a T-shirt. He was basically naked. He had a T-shirt, 3 pounds of food, a little bit of gear, 8 pints of water. Not very much if you're in that kind of situation. He drifted for 76 days over 1,800 miles of ocean. Go pull up Google Earth later on and look up how big 1,800 miles is. He eventually reached land and rescue in the Bahamas. He tells the story in his book, which I will link. Here's the really interesting part. Sometimes when a person goes through trauma, right? This I'm going to pull in the psychology again for this. When a person goes through trauma, one of the things that can happen is they can have a split in their personalities. This is where the term split personality comes from, which is kind of an older term. We don't really call it that anymore. We call it dissociative identity disorder. But it doesn't always happen when a person goes through a trauma, but it can. Why do some people get it and other people don't? Why do some people get nightmares, other people don't? We don't have all those answers. But he had one of these dissociative identity issues where his mind divided into two characters. One was a captain and one was a crewman. And he kept records, and he was there was in the records that they were able to read later on. It basically talks about him, the captain, arguing with him, the crewman, over how rations were to be used and things like that. He was surviving for over a month on a pint of rainwater a day. A pint of rain, not ideal. Like most people, if you're not like, construction or something like that, you're probably drinking about 32 to 48 ounces of water a day. If you're doing something a little more physical active, probably a gallon a day. He's drinking a pint of water a day, and he was able to stay alive from that. He did catch a little fish along the way. I think the moral of the story here that I want to bring up is that in both of those stories, there's a part of the brain. This is a lot of the other channels don't talk about this piece. This is where I bring in the psychology piece of it. There's stuff that goes on that we can say, I'm prepping for a recession. I'm prepping for a hurricane. I'm prepping for a tornado, prepping for a war, whatever. You think that you're really in control. And to some extent, your preps will help you with that. But in the moment of survival, that inner part of the brain that I was talking about earlier in the video, the brain core, will, for a large part of it, take over. So this is why you want to try to train that part of the brain as well. And running scenarios in your head is a good way to do that. Experience is really like, having lived through a few hurricanes, we are much, much better at managing the anxiety around that. Eventually, I got better at managing the anxiety around being around tornadoes when I was in Kentucky. You talk to somebody who grows up in Massachusetts, like they will drive through snowstorms. Not everybody, but a lot of them will, right? Because there's that experience. Sometimes that can backfire, right? Like, because it can cause us to make sloppy decisions too. But it has a lot of benefits to train that part of the brain, and experience is one of the ways you can train that brain. Not saying go out and chase down tornadoes, although that could be kind of fun. And then the other part of that I just wanted to say is a lot of times there's scenarios that will come up. And this is what I'm going to end with. Like, I'm involved with some of the prepper groups on Facebook, things like that, and people will throw out scenarios for us to discuss. And one of the ones that always comes up is, what would you do if there was a nuclear blast near your area? My response has always been the same. I don't want to survive a nuclear blast in my area. I really don't. But what happens if that really was going to happen? Would that survival part of my brain, that brain core, kick in, and all of a sudden I start scramble trying to figure out, where can I go? What can I do? It makes you wonder. It really makes you wonder. A lot of people have I think most humans have more of that will in us to survive, to figure things out. What am I going to do to better my chances? And we all have it within us, So that's what's cool. That's what's cool. I want you to train that. You all are awesome. Let me read these last few comments and we'll call it a night. Who goes to see Donald Duckett? Donald Duncan it. What's that mean to Donald Duncan it? Ducking it. Naked? Does that mean naked? MK Ultra's favorite technique. Interesting read. Yeah, about a gallon. That's good, Millstacks. That's good. I'm probably about 48 ounces myself, and if I'm exercising, I probably double that. No worries, Sarge. I only go out chasing waterfalls. All right, y'all. I really appreciate you. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I'm gonna leave it running here for a minute. So if you want to plug anything, go ahead down there. If you got a video coming out this weekend or early next week that you want to tell people about, go ahead and plug it. And I'll leave this running for a minute. Y'all keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver. Have a great weekend. This is Prepping with Sarge. Always my pleasure, Sarge. Millstacks, you're probably right. We ducking it t-shirt, no pants. Donald, I'll remember that. Donald ducking it. Okay. Millstacks, that's probably true, right? That's probably true that that's going to kick in whether we think like, that nuclear scenario where I say, what, I probably would just stand outside or whatever. I probably, realistically, that survival brain would probably take over. Thanks, Stuart. Really appreciate you. Night to you, Sarge. All right, guys, I think I'm going to call it there then. Cheers, bacon. Y'all go have a good night. Drink some bourbon. Not too much, though. Have fun, but not too much fun.